I, I welcome you all to the class of economics. Today I will start fourth unit, which deals with the macroeconomics, and I will also cover the fifth unit. Uh, Second and third unit has been covered by the Dr. Tariq Aziz. So what I will do today that I will briefly apprise you of the objectives and instruments of macroeconomic policy. May I request the participant to mute themselves, otherwise I will have to mute from my side. Let me see who is there. Since a long time have elapsed between the initial discussion about the microeconomics and macroeconomics, so let me briefly tell you what macroeconomics is. You know that when we started our discussion about economics, then we discussed that there are two main domains of economics, areas of economics. One is described as microeconomics, and another is called macroeconomics. Microeconomics tries to study the behavior of individual farm consumer, that is the study of the micro unit of an economy, whereas macroeconomics deal with the broad economic aggregates like the prices, total price, average price, total output, total employment, and so on. So the macroeconomics is important in the sense that the destiny of a nation depends upon the macroeconomic management, and therefore it's the factors behind the growth, the rise in price, generation of employment, inequalities, income and wealth, factors affecting the balance of payment, that is linkage with the outside world, they are important. So what I am going to do today that I will briefly highlight what are the major objectives which a nation would like to pursue and what are the various instruments or tools available with the policymaker, that is the government. If you look at the major objectives, I'm emphasizing the word major objectives, okay. There are other objectives as well. So every nation would like to achieve high level of output. And generate employment and to have stable prices, followed by a healthy balance of payment. Then in order to achieve this, it has got certain tools which can be manipulated, which can be used to have an effect on these objectives. For instance, one of the most important objectives of a nation is to achieve high level of output with rapid growth. Now, I am deliberately avoiding these terminologies of economics, like whenever we talk about output, the terminologies like GDP, GNP comes into our mind. I will take up this thing in detail as we go by. So every nation would like to achieve high level of economics. Simply it means that the aggregate goods and services produce an economy, the money value of should be high, every year. So the high level of GDP, if you take it, and this should, increase at a rapid pace. That, for example, a deceleration in the production of goods and services is not good for the economy. So every nation would like to achieve high level of output goods and services, that is the production of goods and services. And this increase should not be one for all activity, that is one time there is a rapid increase and then the growth falls. Continuous increase, a sustained increase in output over a period of time. Now, technically speaking, this is measured by GDP, which I'll take up, also called national income. So the GDP measures whether economy is growing or not, because one of the most important indicator of health of a nation is what about GDP. If GDP is declining or the output is declining, then something is wrong. Like there are some parameters for health. There are one of the most important parameters of health of a nation is the attainment of high level of output with rapid growth. Now, if you, for example, we talk about the Indian economy has grown by over the decelerated and the growth will pick up in after post-COVID. For example, we have grown by 8%. That is, our output has increased for a quite long period of time. Chinese economy grew more by 10-12%. So whenever we say this thing like how much time it will take the GDP to double, so if you use the compounding principle, then it will come out to be, if the economy is growing by 8%, then it will take 9 years to the GDP or the national output to become double. So that is why one of the most important objectives of the nation is to ask the question, what is the growth in GDP output, and whether this is sustained growth or it's not sustained, is the checkered growth, or there are the growth is not persistent, then it is not good for the economy. So this is one objective. Then the question is that if economy is able to achieve very high level of growth, economy is growing by 10%, 12%. What is the use of economy, this growth, if it does not result in generation of employment? If growth without employment or growth with very less number of job creation is there, then growth may not be much meaningful. That is why the content of growth is also important, whether it is resulting in generation of employment or not. For instance, if economy has got a very high level of unemployment, then it means that something is wrong in the economy. The output is increasing, but at the same time, if unemployment is also increasing, then it means that the benefit of growth has not percolated to the needy person, those who need jobs like that. Maybe certain sectors of the economy have experienced the growth and jobs are created there. Let us say high skilled job, but lower skilled job is not there, or middle level jobs are there. So in other words, every nation would like to achieve high level of employment. And when we say high level of employment, then low level of involuntary unemployment, because the word involuntary used in a way that, that there might be some people who may be changing their job, they may not be willing to work. So their jobs may be available, but they may not be. For example, women workforce, for example, they are maybe for various reasons, they may not. Some people may be changing their jobs, so they may not be willing, or for other reasons. So naturally, 6 or 7 or 8% unemployment in considered to be normal in the economy. But if economy has got more than 25, like our economy, the jobs with the employment position, unemployment very, very high. In other countries, if a large army of unemployed youth there, then there is upheaval, there might be chaos and so on. So growth is meaningless if it is not accompanied by generation of employment. That is why the pertinent question to ask is, what is the generation of employment? Whether the growth has resulted in generation of employment or not, or it only the economy has grown, but jobs have not been created to the level that it can absorb all those who are willing and able to work. Then even if economy is able to achieve high level of growth and generating employment, but if prices start rising, which is also called inflation, which I will discuss also in detail. So if economy is growing, but also it is bringing in high level of rise in price, then it is also not good for the economy. There is overheating in the economy. because once the economy, the inflation starts rising, then the government may apply, controls to combat rise in price, because if prices start rising, then it may snowball into further rise. And if it is not controlled, then it becomes very problematic. In some cases, it may go what we call hyperinflation. Growth is achieved, employment is generated, but prices are also rising. So growth with stable prices, that is neither too high nor too low, a moderate level of price may be there. So we will discuss about what are the inflation, what is inflation, what are the types of inflation, what are the factors which cause inflation, and what are the impact of inflation later on in this course. So this is not the end of the story. So one more important objective which a nation would like to achieve is that it would like to have healthy balance of payment. No nation lives in isolation. It has got international linkages, global linkages. One link is export and import, flow of investment. So, and this is recorded in an account which is called balance of payment. So whatever transaction is carried out by a nation with the outside world, outside I do not mean Mars or some outer space. In outside world in economics simply means with other countries, So that is recorded in balance of payments. So how much, for example, export is there? Export result in earning of foreign exchange. So it is, and import is result in outflow of foreign exchange. So for example, if we are earning more foreign exchange and then what we are paying it, we may have surplus in current account. The details will come in the 5th unit. If, for instance, there is a deficit here, but investment, FDI and other coming, then it can be rigid. So if you recall that in India, the 1991 crisis, which paved way for the economic reform, started because balance of payment crisis. Our foreign exchange reserve had dwindled to a level which was barely sufficient to pay 3 weeks import. So we had to face the mortification of transporting gold to Bank of England and borrow to bridge. Because if nation default, for example, if our foreign exchange reserves are less, and if we fail in paying for imports, then it is not good. And if nation default, its standing and other thing also takes a beating. So that is why not only that we are achieving high level economic generating employment and we are able to attain high level of the stable prices, but we should also have a balance of payment, which technically speaking, as you see in the 5th unit, balance of payment will always balance, but this is not the occasion to go in their detail like that. So balance of payment, that is a healthy balance of payment. We are earning more foreign exchange than what we are achieving, the paying. So then other objectives are also there. For example, some say that poverty alleviation, inequalities and income and wealth to reduce. One of the important objectives in current time has been highlighted also, that if nations are growing, GDP is growing, but the gap between rich and poor is widening, the disparity is widening, the difference between haves and have not have, increased, then something is wrong with that. So that is why inequality, to reduce inequality, poverty and other. But if, for example, if a nation is not growing, then other objectives cannot be. That if the output are, the not experiencing a rapid growth, then other objectives may be very difficult to achieve. So that is why the most important objective of any nation, be it Mongolia, be it Myanmar, or be it United States, or any other country, is output. So if you want to have some indicators about the health of a nation, one should ask these basics. What about output? What about employment? What about prices? What about balance of payment? And other questions are also, what about the gap between rich and poor and like that. So And nowadays, that sustainable growth with environmental and other thing. But I think that is also part of that. But these are the question is, how can a nation achieve these objectives? What are the instruments available which a nation can use to achieve these objectives? Uh, there are two main instruments which are at the disposal of a nation which can use to achieve these objectives. They are monetary policy and fiscal policy. There is one more policy which I will tell you later, which is used in a very in extraordinary situation. So first objective is first instrument at the disposal of a nation is fiscal policy. Let us start with the fiscal policy. I'll come back to that. Fiscal policy, that government every year comes out a budget. So fiscal policy is implemented through budget. Budget actually uses taxes and expenditure. So taxes can be increased or decreased, and expenditure, that is public expenditure, can be increased or decreased. For instance, the COVID situation, it was suggested that government should increase public spending, reduce taxes, so that people have more money and they can buy and that can revive the economy. So by using the fiscal policy, for example, the recession is there, low demand is, unemployment is there, the inventories have piled up. So government should reduce taxes and pump and undertake public expenditure programs so that people have the purchasing power and they can buy goods and services, and because of that the goods are sold, businesses get signal that there is demand, they start production, employing people, and then the activity virtuous cycle is created because of that. So every year government comes out with a budget which is a statement of the how government is going to raise money through taxes and other non-taxes tax resources, and how government is going to spend money on various items, maybe on education, maybe on health, maybe on so on and so forth, maybe on some other guarantee scheme like employment scheme like that. So public expenditure programs and all that. So fiscal policy is one of the most important tools in affecting, in achieving the growth, that is the high level of output and generation of employment and life. Then in addition to this, government also uses monetary policy. Monetary policy is conducted by Reserve Bank of India. And Reserve Bank of India, by changing supply of money and credit in the economy through a rate of interest, either, for example, rate of interest is increased, then supply of money may go down. That is, the money become costlier. So RBI conducts the monetary policy, a central bank of any country, and tries to infuse more supply of money in the economy, or suck supply of money depending upon the economic condition. If inflation is there, prices are rising, then RBI will try to reduce supply of money so that the inflation can be contained. If there is a recessionary, RBI will make more availability of credit and other things liberal and will bring down. So RBI has got various instruments, like it has got bank rate, open market operation, reserve ratio variation, and other things which we'll discuss in detail. By using those instruments, the RBI can conduct monetary policy, it can infuse supply of money in the economy, or can take a suck from the system. And please remember that the RBI operates through banking system. All the banks are under so RBI conducts its policy through banking system, and the effect gets transmitted like that. So like recently the quarterly monetary policy, there is a rate which we call repo rate. This is not time to explain the detail. Repurchase agreement, where it is a rate at which RBI provides financial accommodation to commercial bank if they need. So if repo rate is increased or decreased, it signals that if it is increased, means that the RBI wants to control inflation. Now RBI has got currently an inflation targeting, that is the ±4. So percent, 4% is the target rate, plus minus it may go. So there is a monetary policy committee which keeps in view the inflation rate and decides about what rate to, whether to bring down the rate or to increase the rate depending upon this. Then there is one more policy which is used in a very extraordinary situation, income policy, like government has, which has done recently in some cases. Like income policies, that if these policies prove to be ineffective, then government can come out with some guideline that wages or remuneration will not be increased, that there should be cap on increase in remuneration so that inflation can be controlled. May put freeze on something like DNS allowances or like that. But these are taken under the situation, current situation. COVID was very different from that, where government put a freeze. So this is used very, sparingly. It is not very common that government then can, for example, in India, when prices were rising, then government came out with a directive and to the companies that they should not distribute dividend, that is profit which companies share with the shareholders, so that the people do not have much money in their hand they can spend, so that the price. So if monetary and fiscal policy prove to be ineffective in some cases, government can also use income policy, which tries to give guidelines, and government sometimes guidelines have got enforceable nature as well. So by and large, nexus of monetary plus fiscal policy is used to control the economic activities, to have an effect on these. Apart from other, but these are the two main policy tools which are at the command of a nation to achieve high levels of output, employment, generation of employment, contain prices, and to attain healthy balance of payment, like that. So this provides an idea about what lies ahead. For example, next in lecture, I will start with the anatomy of the economy to enable you to understand what are the various sectors in the economy. And then after that, I will talk about national income, wherein I will go into detail about the national income concept and how it is calculated and other concepts. Then I will also discuss about the inflation, how inflation is measured, and I will also discuss the balance of payment and the exchange rates. And I will also discuss about monetary policy, fiscal policy, and these aspects will be covered in coming 4th and 5th unit. And I will also discuss about the gyration in business conditions, like business cycles, fluctuation in income, because this is the part and parcel of every modern nation, that the economic activities undergo a change over the period of time. So this is in brief about. Now I invite your question. If you have, I can address some of the questions. So. If you have any question, you can ask. Yes, any question? Otherwise, I will close and we'll see in the next class.
There is no question, sir.
Okay. So we'll see you in next class. So I could have started another topic after this, but since we are meeting after a long time, so therefore I thought that let me start with this. And if you have any problem in, I think that Dr. Tariq has already taken up. And second, third unit later on, we'll see that if there is any issue with that, I can also take up later on. So I close for the day and we'll see you in my next class.
Thank you, sir.